Who are the top 5 power team members that you must have on your championship winning property rehab all-star team? Stick around in today's episode to find out, and make sure you stick around because number 1 and number 2 are sure to surprise you. Hey, it's your host, Michael Emanuele, aka the Real Estate Rehabber. Welcome to episode number 2 of the Real Estate Rehabbers podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be doing a countdown of my top 5 must-have power team members for your property rehabs. So let me start by defining what is a power team member, because I don't know what your experience level is when it comes to real estate investing. So I want to give you the basics here. So I like to equate a power team member to a player on a professional sports team, because real estate investing and business and life in general is really a team sport. And on your championship team, you can think of yourself as the coach, and you are moving the various parts, the various players in each position until you find a winning combination. And that will ultimately take you to the promised land, which isn't a trophy, it's financial freedom. So power team members are like your championship roster of players. And what I would say, when you look at a team sport, there is no one player that does or plays every single position, right? Each player at that position has probably been playing in that position for the majority of their high school, college, and professional careers. So in basketball, you have your point guard, you have your guard, you have your center, you have your shooter, right? There's all these different positions, and you're not going to have a center that's 7 feet tall playing the point guard position. And therefore, they are specialists at that role. That is where they excel. Another example would be in football. Your running back probably isn't going to be playing quarterback or tight end or a center or a punter or a kicker, right? They're a running back. Same thing with your quarterback. So why am I saying this? You don't want to have a team of mediocrity. You don't want to have a bunch of generalists that know a little about a lot. You would rather them know a lot about a little. And there's a couple of stories from 2 books specifically that I can think of. One of those being Rich Dad, Poor Dad. And if you haven't read that, I would highly recommend that you do. But the example that I can remember is Robert, as a child, and his friend would visit the friend's dad, who was known as Rich Dad. And on several occasions while they were waiting for him, he was busy in meetings. And this is a man that owned a number of different businesses on the island in Hawaii. And the people that he was bringing in were his power team members, whether those are managers and operators of specific businesses or other members that which I'll get into later. So Rich Dad was taking his advice from the people, from the specialists, and then using that advice to make a decision. So another example that I can think of is from the book Think and Grow Rich, written by Napoleon Hill, which I would also definitely recommend that you check out if you haven't read it yet. But Napoleon Hill, as the narrator, basically tells the story of Henry Ford creating or founding the Ford Motor Company, one of the largest automobile companies ever to have existed. Also started the production line, which is a pretty cool fact. But he tells a story of Henry Ford on trial and questioned on all of these different subjects: history, geography, all of these general facts that don't actually impact his ability to lead and manage the Ford Motor Company. And after a while of answering some of these questions, he gets tired or bored, and he basically says, "Why would I want to know all of these general facts? There's a series of buttons on my desk, and when I push one of those buttons, I will have someone in to tell me the specific answer." And when I first read that, it was just kind of like my mind was immediately opened up. So he had a team of specialists working for him that they had their sets of duties, responsibilities. They were specialists in their role. They were the ones that were in the day to day. They knew it better than he did. And he was humble enough to take their advice. He was also smart enough to not be distracted by the little details, but to focus on the bigger picture so that he can lead and manage based on his vision and values more effectively. And the power team members, and that from that example and from the rich dad example, are essentially the same thing. They're your team, your players who are specialists that you seek to provide you advice that you may and more likely may not know. They will approach it from all of the different angles. They will know things that you can't even think of to ask. And they are your advisors and they are leading you to that championship. Okay? So that is a very long that's a very long explanation of what a power team member is, but I think I want to drive it home exactly the importance of their role in your success as a real estate investor. All right. So now that I've covered what is a power team member and the value that they can bring to you on your quest for financial freedom, let me start with my number five. So, my number five is a property manager. Now, this depends on whether or not you are flipping or doing a buy and hold strategy. Because if you're doing flipping, you won't need a manager, property manager. You're not renting anything out. You don't have any tenants. You don't have any properties to look over for an extended period of time. But if you are doing a buy and hold strategy and you are doing either a short term or a long term, or I guess even midterm rentals, you're going to want a property manager. The property manager is your boots on the ground. They're doing all of the legwork for you to find tenants, screen tenants, provide their findings to you to ultimately make a decision. And then once you've got tenants in your property, to then manage those tenants and any issues that come up. Busted toilet, a leaking pipe, a hole in the wall, damaged door hardware, and rent collection, of course. Anything like that. That's their responsibility. I don't know if you're anything like me, but I really do not have the patience to be managing tenants. That is not where I excel. What else could a property manager do? A property manager could also be your boots on the ground when, if you are investing remotely, like in the United States or elsewhere around the world, your boots on the ground that is there to provide you and be your eyes and ears on whatever's going on. So if you purchase a property and you're renovating that property, to have someone go in and either take pictures, videos, or FaceTime with you on the spot so you can keep tabs on how things are going, or to pay contractors and similar tasks to that is monumental for you. Really will free up your time to be able to focus on some of the other responsibilities that come with being a real estate investor, whether that and what you specifically want to be doing with your time. If that means finding deals or raising capital or managing property rehabs or sitting back on the beach with a margarita, I would definitely take the latter over any of them. But we all have to go through the various stages till we reach that point. So that is the property manager. Now, number four is the mortgage broker. And the mortgage broker is your gateway to funding your real estate investment and not only the property, but your property rehab. An investor focused mortgage broker will have access to literally hundreds of different lending opportunities for you, which is quite in contrast to what the average Joe would be going to do to purchase their personal primary residence or a secondary home like a cottage or even an investment property. They're going to one of the major banks and work with someone there as a sole source to fund that purchase. Now, they're really pigeonholing themselves, and they might be told that they don't qualify through that big bank, whereas the mortgage broker who has access to not only the big banks, which are also referred to as A lenders, but B lenders, which are second tier banks, to credit unions, to private money, so people who have investments, capital sitting on the sidelines and want to invest it, but don't necessarily want to be a hands-on real estate investor. They rather be more passive. And by working with a mortgage broker who has access and can send your application out to all these different types of lenders based on your income, your credit, your debt service ratio, and all the other metrics that lenders are looking at, they are really helping you find creative ways to finance investment properties that you might not have previously. Not only that, but a good mortgage broker will listen to you and together discuss what your goals are, short-term and long-term goals for real estate investing. You may just be interested in picking up one investment property, or you may be interested in picking up 5 investment properties, or maybe you're interested in picking up 10 investment properties or 100. I don't know what your number is, and that will depend on what stage you are at, but you definitely want to know going into a discussion with an investor-focused mortgage broker what that plan is, because you can then create a strategy, and the mortgage broker will help you with this, as to what lending options you should exhaust first. Because some of the big banks, for example, will only lend under your personal name up to 5 properties, where others could lend up to 10 properties, and others potentially even more than that. So finding a good mortgage broker, an investor-focused mortgage broker who has access to these different lending options, is another important cog in the wheel for your power team member. Now, number 3, which is probably number 1 on most people's lists, is realtors. Realtors and wholesalers I would also put together, because they are your deal finders. It's kind of a chicken and an egg situation, whether you need to find a deal first to find the money, or you have the money first and then find the deal. But regardless, you need eyes and ears on the ground, especially if you are going to be investing in a different city. Now, a good realtor needs to be investor focused, because they're going to put that hat on and look at deals differently than your traditional realtor who works primarily with homeowners. They're going to have a better eye for detail as far as looking beyond kitchens and bathrooms and cosmetics. A good realtor and also a wholesaler will have a rough idea on scope of work and construction costs, because they're likely real estate investors themselves. That is another advantage of working with an investor-focused realtor and with a wholesaler. Now, you still have to be aware and educate yourself on the market that you are intending to invest in. Obviously, you want to know the market fundamentals. Why is it a good investment? So that's the realtor and wholesalers kind of combine into one. And the reason that they're not number one on my list is because they are a valuable power team member and a valuable asset to have. Don't get me wrong. But whenever I walk into a networking event, I don't want to say the vast majority, but a good number of the people that are there are either realtors or they're mortgage brokers. Now, they're all real estate investors, but the point I'm trying to make is compared to number 2 and number 1 on my list, there's a lot more of them than these other 2. Hey, so I just want to interrupt the show for a second to let you know that it's sponsored by me and my 2 books, Rehabbing Your Way to Wealth and Rehabber Secrets. Both of these books are now available on Amazon in Kindle and paperback format. I highly recommend them. I'll leave a link to both in the description. And if you do pick them up, I would love to get your feedback on them. All right, let's get back to it. My number 2 pick, I must have power team members, is contractors. Going into networking rooms, there will be far less contractors and contractors who are real estate investors, obviously, than there will be of any of the other ones on this list. That to me makes them more valuable because certainly there are lots and lots of contractors. There's lots of bad contractors. There's lots of good contractors. But an investor-focused contractor is an extremely valuable asset to have when you're doing property rehabs as part of your real estate investment strategy. One who is investor-focused, who you can bring with you on property walkthroughs, and I guess I should specify, it doesn't need to necessarily be a general contractor, but any contractor, subcontractor, like a plumber, an HVAC, gas tech, an electrician, a carpenter, bricklayer, whatever. If they're investor focused, they'll be able to provide you with recommendations that are more cost efficient, and knowing what it's like to work with bad contractors, they'll be able to add a lot of value to you as a real estate investor because a good contractor will run with it. That's what I do in my business, and we work primarily with real estate investors, is just give me the ball and let me take it to the end zone, to the hoop. Now, obviously, you still need to lay the groundwork for what it is that you want, but after that, they can take it and they can just go, and they'll understand how you solve problems, and they won't bring anything to you unless they need your authority on, and just go with it, man. Conversely, having a bad contractor can really set you back. They could really be a detriment to your real estate investing business. If you have a contractor that's needy, for one example, and they're always calling you every time they have a question, well, how distracting is that going to be while you're trying to find deals or raise money? Right? Another example is if they're a bad contractor, their quality sucks, and you come in at the end of the job because you haven't been there through the entirety of it, and you find this issue, that issue, you didn't want it like this, you didn't like it like that, like that's going to cause a problem. There's going to be rework that has to be done. That's more time, that's more money, that's more stress and headaches that you didn't have to deal with if you had a good contractor. Another example of a bad contractor is one that will take advantage of the situation because you are not experienced in the realm of managing contractors and writing scopes of work and knowing how long things should take and how they should be done, and doing quality control checks throughout the process to make sure that, this switch doesn't go here. If they know or can sense that you don't know or you're not confident in what you're doing, you could be hit with some serious problems over the course of that property rehab. And the value of an investor-focused contractor is paramount. It puts you at a huge advantage as a real estate investor. And just like the property manager, it allows you to kind of take the foot off the gas on that department so that you can focus on something else, some other task that will help you move the needle for your business. So for that reason, contractors are number 2 on my list. Just make sure that you find a good one because a bad one could be disastrous. Now, finally, for number one on my must have power team member list. That is coaches and mentors. If you don't have a coach or a mentor, I highly suggest that you do yourself a favor and get one, because it could really accelerate your journey as a real estate investor. I know when I first started, I was really reluctant to pay for a coach, and I definitely had lots of mentors, because mentors could be really anybody. It doesn't even have to be someone that you personally know. A mentor could be someone that you admire from afar. It could be an author. It could be, a podcaster. It could be an influencer. It could be another entrepreneur. You don't have to know them personally. You could just consume some form of their content and be like, I want what they have. And because they're already successfully doing what you want to be doing, you can take from them, take all their knowledge and experience and mimic it, master it for your own gains, is one way to accelerate your journey as a real estate investor, as an entrepreneur. So I highly recommend it. Who are some of my mentors? Certainly Tony Robbins would be a mentor to me. I've never met the man, but I've participated in Unleash the Power Within. I've read a number of his books. I've attended a number of his summits that he's done in conjunction with Dean Graziosi. Who else would be another mentor? Russell Brunson would for sure be a mentor, as far as on the entrepreneur side of things and sales and marketing and understanding the importance of that. And his 3 books, .com Secrets, Expert Secrets, and Traffic Secrets, all provide a wealth of knowledge that he has learned from his own set of mentors and coaches and compiled for me to consume and benefit from. A mentor, I would say, is Grant Cardone. He has a portfolio worth billions of dollars of multifamily real estate. And you can look to him as someone who came from nothing and built himself up to, like so many billionaires, to a person of status and success and wealth, with good family values and wanting the desire to help people go from poverty or middle class and raise their game up to wealthy. Not necessarily rich, but wealthy. But all of these 3 are different mentors. I've never met any of them, but I'm just soaking all of the knowledge and watching what they do and stealing their confidence for myself and applying everything that I'm learning. And I'm not having to do it by trial and error, because they've already done all of the trial and error, and it really can help you take your game to the next level. Now, a coach is someone that you would pay, and it could be a group or, better yet, one-on-one. And a coach is someone that you do know personally, that you do interact with on a regular basis, they will teach you, but they're more there to hold you accountable and help you overcome roadblocks and challenges and get unstuck when you encounter something, to provide direction. Instead of going down way over here when you get distracted on something, they want you to come back into alignment with whatever your goals and desires are that you had in your initial conversation, to keep moving you into that direction. That's the benefit of having a coach. Now, how much you pay for a coach and what kind of coach you need. You can have a life coach, you can have a real estate coach, you can have a business coach, you can have a health and wellness coach. All these there's no shortage of coaches that exist. But what I would say between mentors and coaches is just find one that you want to work with, that you have admiration and respect for, that has gone through all of the mistakes and the challenges that you might encounter, has already made them, and can relay to you what's worked and what hasn't worked. And you combine those 2 things together, and you're off to the races. It makes a world of difference, especially if it's someone who can lay it out in a step-by-step format for you, so there's no uncertainty. You're just like, okay, I have to do this today, and then I'm doing this tomorrow, and I'm doing this the next day and I'm doing it because of X, Y, and Z reason, and you have someone, you're not doing it by yourself because the entrepreneurial journey is a very lonely journey. I've come to find out over the last 2.5 years since I left my corporate 9 to 5 job to scratch that entrepreneurial itch. It's a very lonely journey. And without these coaches and mentors, there is no one else to guide you. Of course, you're going to have a network, a circle of peers, but you're all at various stages of your journey. And what might have worked for them might not necessarily work for you. And what their desires are might not align with what yours are. And so this is why you want to focus. And there's just so much noise out there that you could talk to 5 different people and get 10 different opinions, right? When you really want, and it's very distracting. And as an entrepreneur and a real estate investor, we all turn into squirrels at the sight of new opportunities. You really need to focus. And I'm speaking from experience here because I was just all over the place after reading Rich Dad Poor Dad and some of these other books that, looking at everything as an opportunity. But you need to pick 1 or 2 things, I'd say, and stick to that. And don't stop until you've squeezed every drop out of it to get to where you want to go. And eventually you can level up and write the next chapter of whatever it is that you want to be doing. So, number 1 in my top 5 must-have power team members is a coach and or mentor. Now, there's a lot of other power team members that you can add to your championship winning team that I haven't gone through today, but honorable mentions to accountants, to lawyers, to paralegals and bookkeepers and architectural designers, engineers, handymen, probably a whole bunch of other people that I'm forgetting, who all have a specific part to play in not only protecting you as the individual, but to help you succeed in the game of real estate and ultimately becoming financially free. So let me know what you thought of my top 5 must-have power team members. Was your list the same? Do you not agree with some of those selections? Let me know in the comments below. I look forward to getting your feedback. So that's all for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. In the next episode, I'm going to be talking about 8 different ways to find your next contractor. So I'll see you next time.